My gold digger girlfriend ruined my life with horrible false allegations after I said no to her. I slammed the door on her. But now, a year later, she's pleading with me to save her from the consequences. To the outside world, I look like a man in finance who has his life together and goes to the gym 3 times a week. But there was a time when I had nothing. I was 17 when I worked at McDonald's. And as if this wasn't bad enough, my teeth were covered in multicolored braces. I thought it was cool at the time. And my sense of style consisted of the biggest hoodies I could find paired with blue skinny jeans. And it's not like I was fat, but because I was yet to discover mewing, all of my weight went to my face. So I basically had a triple chin. Needless to say, girls would flock to me, but in the worst way possible. I couldn't even walk past a group without getting laughed at and outwardly ridiculed. So one day, when a girl named Camilla walked in and placed an order, my jaw practically dropped. Because not only did she thank me, but she even sparked a conversation. So, what do you want to be when you grow up? She asked. I guess a technological analyst, I replied, unable to hide my lisp. I expected the usual response, an eye roll or a look of disgust, but instead she smiled. That's so cool. My heart was already pounding at 100 miles per hour, but it was lunch rush, so I apologized and told her I'd have to take the next person's order. I'll wait for you, she exclaimed, before grabbing her Oreo McFlurry and sitting down in a booth. As soon as I finished my shift 4 hours later, I walked over to her and we began to play Dungeons and Dragons on our phones. I had over 500 hours under my belt and I didn't want to scare her away from how good I was. But when I played badly on purpose, she beat me. And when I played well, she still beat me. So I did the first thing I could think to do. I asked Camilla if I could invite my best friend Andrew, who lived around the corner. She nodded, and that's how we spent the rest of the day taking turns beating each other at D&D. But halfway through, I noticed something. Camilla and Andrew were non-stop stealing glances from each other. It wasn't even subtle. And I guess Andrew studied a lot of porn, because towards the end, I could see Camilla throw her head back with pleasure, while Andrew's legs were moving super fast. That's when I finally realized that they were playing footsie. But instead of feeling awkward, I felt happy. Not only because Andrew was my boy, and he finally bagged a girl, but also because if he could do it, then it meant there was hope for me too. Okay, I lied. I wasn't actually happy for Andrew. At that moment, I wanted him unalived, because I had already imagined a life where me and Camilla get married and live happily ever after, where I got rich and bought us a huge house and we played D&D with our kids. And when I called Andrew to come, I texted him saying I had a huge crush on her, which meant he just broke bro code. Just 5 days later, Andrew and Camilla started dating and ghosted me. That's when I finally blew up. I convinced my mom to let me get my braces taken off early, started hitting the gym, and did everything I could to look like one of the jocks in my school, the ones that get all the girls. So by the time I looked somewhat decent, I hadn't seen them in months. But that's when Camilla came into McDonald's again. As soon as our eyes locked, I saw her eyebrows furrow, and she looked at my name tag, then back up at me again. Her face flushed, and I could feel butterflies in my stomach. She stammered a lot when she ordered, and I could feel her eyes running along my body. Mwahaha. I don't know what I was expecting to happen from there, but once she got her order, she left. A week later, when I was doing my routine stalk of their Instagrams with my fake Indian man account, my eyes nearly popped out of my head. They had removed their anniversary date from their bios, removed their highlights of each other, and unfollowed each other too. I smiled. I knew my time had finally come. I switched back to my regular account and saw she had unblocked me, so I followed her. I texted her asking if she wanted to visit me at work, and she agreed. That day, I literally wooed her. I got her flowers with a Hello Kitty teddy, her favorite, in the center, 5 of her favorite vape flavors, and a gift card of $200 to her favorite nail salon. She kissed me right then and there, and we immediately started dating. Except I soon noticed something. Behind her pretty face was a spoiled brat. It started with her sending me links of things she wanted me to buy her. Cool. But on our 1-month anniversary, she asked if I could buy her the iPad Pro, which was almost $2,000 at the time, because she had accidentally scratched the screen of her current one. I told her no, because that would mean I'd have no savings left. She completely ignored me for the rest of the week, so I invited her over to a candlelit dinner to apologize, and we had so much adult fun that I fell asleep instantly. When I woke up, she was gone, and when I went to text her, I saw that I had received dozens of follow requests and DMs on Instagram. Most of them were death threats, others were just hateful. Turns out, Camilla had posted a video on TikTok saying I had R-worded her tearful face convincing enough to rally an army against me. I was shocked, devastated. I thought my life was over, but then Camilla made a mistake. This bimbo, accidentally, somehow, leaked her own videos she took of herself laughing about the fake accusations she had made against me, and she didn't notice until it was long up. So now, she had 2 videos up, one accusing me of R-wording her, and one laughing to herself about how she made the whole thing up. I thought it would be super clear as to what actually happened, but I wasn't naive enough to think Camilla's mistake would mean my problems were over. But I failed to realize that Camilla was the type to double down when cornered, like a wounded animal becoming more dangerous. The cafeteria buzzed with whispers as I walked through during lunchtime, crazy scandal in the air. Sure enough, by the end of the school day, Camilla had gone completely private on all her social media, and that's because her main TikTok account posted one final video before locking down, her tearfully claiming the leaked videos were deep fakes created by me to discredit her. The comments section was a battlefield between people who believed her and those who'd seen enough evidence to doubt her story. Digital warfare playing out in real time. Each refresh brought new comments, the debate raging with increasing vitriol on both sides. I was sitting in my car in the school parking lot, scrolling through the chaos on my phone, when someone knocked on my window. The sudden sound made me jump, nearly dropping my phone between the seats. It was Ruth, the editor of the Daily Hawk, our school newspaper, her glasses reflecting the afternoon sun. "Hey," she said when I rolled down the window. "Just wanted to let you know we're getting a lot of pressure pressure to take down those videos. The principal called me into his office, her breath fogged slightly in the cool air between us, her fingers nervously adjusting her glasses. My stomach dropped like an elevator with cut cables. Are you going to do it? Ruth shook her head, her determination visible in the set of her jaw. No way. This is news, and we're not taking sides. We're just showing what's out there. But she glanced around nervously, lowering her voice. Camilla's parents are threatening to sue the school. They're saying you doctored those videos. Great. Just what I needed. Legal threats on top of social crucifixion. The leather steering wheel felt suddenly slick beneath my sweaty palms. The car interior too warm despite the cool temperature outside. They're not doctored. I recorded them straight from her accounts, I insisted, my voice tight. I believe you, Ruth said, her sincerity evident. Just be careful, okay? Camilla's dad is some big shot lawyer, and they're out for blood. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Take down those videos or we'll make sure you regret it. The screen illuminated with the threat, the words seeming to pulse with malice in the dim interior of my car. I showed it to Ruth, who took a picture of it with her own phone, the flash momentarily blinding in the car's interior. Evidence, she said grimly. Keep everything. That night, I barely slept, every sound amplified by my anxiety. The house creaked and settled around me, each noise magnified by my hypervigilant state. Every car that drove past our house made me jump, my nerves frayed to breaking point. I kept checking the windows, half expecting to see someone vandalizing our property again after the first wave of accusations had led to our mailbox being smashed. The darkness outside seemed to press against the glass, threatening to seep in and suffocate me. My mom noticed my anxiety and sat with me in the living room until 2 a.m., both of us pretending to watch a cooking show while really just keeping each other company, her presence a silent comfort. The soft glow of the TV cast blue shadows across the room, the volume kept low as if we were afraid to disturb the fragile peace we'd created. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my mom arguing with someone at the front door, her voice sharp with protective anger. The unfamiliar male voice responding to her carried through the house, deep and authoritative. I rushed downstairs to find her blocking the entrance, facing a man in an expensive suit that probably cost more than our monthly rent. His polished shoes gleamed on our worn welcome mat, his posture radiating entitlement. Have every right to protect my daughter from these false allegations, the man was saying, his voice cold and controlled like a precisely calibrated instrument. Your daughter is the one making false allegations, my mom fired back, her 5'4" frame somehow filling the doorway. And you have no right to show up at our home unannounced. Her hands gripped the doorframe so tightly her knuckles had turned white, her normally gentle demeanor replaced by fierce protection. I stepped up behind her, adrenaline making my heart race. What's going on? The man's eyes locked onto me, his gaze calculating and hostile. So you're the one ruining my daughter's reputation with doctored videos. His cologne, something expensive and overpowering, wafted through the doorway, adding to the intrusive nature of his presence. Camilla's father, great, the big shot lawyer himself, bringing the battle to our doorstep. The morning sunlight caught on his gold watch as he gestured emphatically, the flash momentarily distracting. Those videos aren't doctored, I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite the tremor I felt in my hands. Your daughter posted them herself, he scoffed, the sound dripping with condescension. We've already consulted with digital forensics experts who say otherwise. You're in serious trouble, young man. Defamation, harassment, invasion of privacy. Please leave our property, my mom interrupted, her voice leaving no room for argument. Any further communication can go through a lawyer. Her shoulders were squared, her chin lifted in defiance despite being significantly shorter than the man towering in our doorway. You can't afford the kind of lawyer you'll need, he sneered, but he turned to leave, his expensive shoes crunching on our gravel walkway. At the end of our path, he stopped and looked back, his parting shot aimed with precision. One more thing, Camilla's already speaking with the police about filing formal charges for the original incident. I'd start preparing for that if I were you. After he left, my mom called in sick to work and spent the morning making calls to affordable lawyers, her determined expression masking the worry I knew she felt. The kitchen table became command central, covered with notepads, coffee mugs, and printouts of legal information she'd gathered. I sat at the kitchen table, feeling sick to my stomach. Even with the evidence I had, Camilla's father had resources I couldn't hope to match, like bringing a knife to a nuclear war. Mom, I can't afford a lawyer, I said quietly, watching her scribble notes during her calls. The refrigerator hummed in the background, the clock on the wall ticking away precious seconds. She slammed her hand on the table with unexpected force, making me jump. Absolutely not. You did nothing wrong, and I will not let that girl destroy your life with lies. She took a deep breath, composing herself. I have some savings, not much, but enough to get us started with a lawyer. Her reading glasses slipped down her nose as she spoke, her hair falling from its usual neat bun. I shook my head, guilt washing over me. That's your retirement money, and you're my son, she said simply, as if that explained everything. The kitchen light caught the silver strands in her hair that hadn't been there a year ago, worry lines around her eyes more pronounced than I remembered. School the next day was a mixed bag of reactions, the social hierarchy reshuffling around me. The familiar hallways felt different somehow, charged with an energy I couldn't quite define. Some people who had been avoiding me now nodded or even said hi, their previous certainty wavering. Others still looked at me with suspicion, whispering as I passed. The lockers slammed around me with their usual metallic finality, but each sound made me flinch slightly, on edge from days of stress. I overheard one girl say to her friend, even if he didn't do it this time, guys like that always have something creepy going on. The words floated over the background noise of the crowded hallway, landing like tiny daggers. During lunch, I sat alone as usual, picking at food I couldn't taste, when Tyler came over with his tray, his varsity jacket marking him as someone who normally wouldn't acknowledge my existence. The cafeteria's fluorescent lights cast unflattering shadows across the institutional beige tables, the smell of overcooked vegetables vegetables and industrial cleaner hanging in the air. Mind if I sit? He asked, hovering uncertainly. His tray held the standard cafeteria fare: mystery meat, soggy vegetables, and a carton of chocolate milk that was probably the only edible item available. I shrugged, not making eye contact. Free country. He sat down across from me, setting his tray down carefully. Look, I'm sorry I didn't believe you right away. That was messed up. His fingers tapped nervously on the table, creating a rhythm that matched my anxious heartbeat. Yeah, it was, I agreed, not making it easy for him, the hurt still too fresh. I've known you since 6th grade, Tyler continued, his discomfort visible in how he fidgeted with his fork. I should have known better. It's just, when a girl says something like that, you're supposed to believe her, you know? The overhead lights reflected off his Letterman jacket patches, the school mascot seeming to glare at me accusingly. I stabbed at my cafeteria pasta with unnecessary force. Even when it ruins someone's life, Tyler had the decency to look ashamed, his gaze dropping to his tray. I'm sorry, man, for real. I nodded, accepting his apology without saying it out loud, the gesture enough for now. We ate in silence for a few minutes before he spoke again, his voice lowered conspiratorially. So, I heard something you might want to know. Camilla's ex-friends are turning on her. He leaned forward, his chocolate milk carton creating a small puddle of condensation on the table. My head snapped up, interest peaked, despite my attempt at indifference. What do you mean? Savannah and Ren, you know, the girls she's always with, they're mad because Camilla threw them under the bus when the school started investigating, told the principal they were the ones who encouraged her to make the video. His words came quickly, excitement at sharing gossip overriding his earlier discomfort. That sounded exactly like Camilla, sacrificing others to save herself. And, Tyler leaned in, lowering his voice to a whisper. They've been sending her old messages to people, screenshots of her asking how much money she could get if she sold her story to a news outlet, stuff about how she was planning to use the video to get famous on TikTok. His breath smelled of chocolate milk and cafeteria pizza, his eyes wide with the thrill of sharing insider information. My heart raced with a mixture of vindication and hope. More evidence. The fluorescent lights suddenly seemed less harsh, the cafeteria noise less overwhelming. Do you have any of these screenshots? Tyler nodded, already pulling out his phone. Savannah sent them to me this morning. I'll forward them to you. His fingers moved quickly across his screen, the blue light illuminating his face in the dim corner of the cafeteria. By the end of the day, I had a folder of screenshots that made Camilla look even worse than I'd imagined. In one exchange with Ren, she'd written, "It's not like anyone's going to believe him over me anyway. Girls always win these things." The casual cruelty of it made my blood boil. I forwarded everything to Ruth at the Daily Hawk, who promised to run a follow-up story. The weight of the evidence felt like armor, each damning message another layer of protection against Camilla's lies. But when I got home, I found my mom sitting at the kitchen table with an expression that made my heart sink. The afternoon sunlight streaming through the windows did nothing to brighten her defeated posture, the official-looking letter in front of her casting a metaphorical shadow across the room. "The school called," she said, her voice carefully controlled. "They're suspending you for 2 weeks." "What? Why?" I exploded, dropping my backpack with a thud. "I didn't do anything!" The sound echoed in the suddenly too quiet kitchen, my voice cracking with disbelief. "They're calling it a cooling-off period. They say the situation is causing too much disruption." She sighed, rubbing her temples. "The principal mentioned that Camilla's father threatened to pull their considerable donations if they didn't take action." Her reading glasses sat folded beside the letter, her coffee mug long since gone cold. Money talks, especially in a school district always desperate for funding. I slumped into a chair, defeat washing over me. So even with proof that she's lying, I'm still the one being punished. The kitchen clock ticked loudly in the silence that followed, each second punctuating the injustice. "It's not fair," my mom agreed, reaching across to squeeze my hand. "But maybe it's for the best. Things are too heated right now." And she hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "We heard from a lawyer. He says we have a good case for defamation, but it would be expensive and take months, maybe years." The lines around her eyes deepened as she spoke, worry etched into features that had aged visibly in the past weeks. I put my head in my hands, exhaustion seeping into my bones. I just want this to be over. The cool surface of the table pressed against my forehead, grounding me momentarily in the midst of swirling emotions. My phone buzzed with a notification, a text from Andrew. "Hey man, can we talk? I didn't know what was real. I'm sorry." The screen illuminated with his name, bringing a fresh wave of complicated feelings. I stared at the message for a long time, emotions warring within me. After everything, after the betrayal and abandonment when I needed friends most, now he wanted to talk? I blocked his number without responding, the action bringing a small measure of satisfaction. Some betrayals cut too deep for simple apologies. The decisive tap of my finger on block contact felt surprisingly cathartic, a tiny reclamation of control. The next 2 weeks of suspension were the longest of my life, each day stretching endlessly before me. I spent most of it at home, afraid to go out in case I ran into someone who still believed Camilla's lies. The walls of my bedroom became both sanctuary and prison, familiar posters and belongings offering comfort while simultaneously reminding me of my confinement. My mom tried to keep my spirits up with movie nights and home-cooked meals, but I could see the worry lines deepening on her face as she fielded calls from bill collectors. The lawyer had required a retainer we could barely afford, eating into her carefully saved retirement fund. The smell of her signature lasagna, usually my favorite, couldn't mask the tension that filled our home, the financial strain adding another layer to our already complicated situation. I kept up with school gossip through Tyler, who texted me daily updates like a personal news service. Camilla had stopped coming to school, claiming she felt unsafe. The Daily Hawk had published the screenshots, causing even more students to turn against her. Her Instagram followers were dropping by the thousands, her social currency devaluing rapidly. Each update from Tyler brought a mixture of vindication and exhaustion, the drama continuing even in my absence. "She's totally canceled," Tyler texted one day. "Nobody believes her anymore. The message was accompanied by a screenshot of Camilla's dwindling follower count, the numbers dropping visibly even within the span of a few hours. But cancellation worked both ways, I was discovering. Even as people began to doubt Camilla's story, the damage to my reputation lingered like a persistent shadow. The original video had spread far beyond our school, and many people who saw it would never see the evidence proving it false. The internet's memory was long for accusations, but short for retractions. The digital footprint of her lies impossible to erase completely. On the Friday before I was due to return to school, I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Meet me at McDonald's tonight at 8. I want to talk. Camilla." The message appeared while I was mindlessly scrolling through Netflix, the notification banner dropping down like a bomb into my momentary peace. I showed the text to my mom, who immediately shook her head, her protective instincts flaring. Absolutely not. It could be a trap. She was folding laundry on the couch, the domestic normalcy at odds with the serious conversation. "What kind of trap?" I asked, though I knew she was probably right. The warm scent of fabric softener filled the living room, creating a strange contrast to the tension of the moment. "She could be recording you, trying to get you to say something she can twist, or she could claim you harassed her by showing up." She placed a folded towel on the growing stack, her movements precise and controlled, despite her obvious concern. She had a point, but I was tired of hiding, tired of letting fear dictate my actions. "I need to face her," I said with more confidence than I felt. "I'll be in a public place with witnesses, and I won't say anything incriminating." The remote control in my hand suddenly felt too small, too insignificant compared to the decision I was making. My mom still looked worried, her forehead creased with concern, but she nodded reluctantly. "I'm driving you there and waiting in the parking lot." Her tone left no room for negotiation, maternal protection overriding any desire to respect my independence. When we pulled into the McDonald's parking lot that evening, I spotted Camilla immediately through the window. The familiar golden arches cast a yellow glow over the parking lot, the interior lights of the restaurant harsh and revealing. She was sitting alone at a booth near the window, looking nothing like the confident girl who had accused me. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she wasn't wearing makeup, dark circles visible under her eyes. She looked up as I entered, and I was surprised to see her eyes were red and puffy, the evidence of recent tears. The smell of fries and cleaning solution hit me as I walked in, triggering memories of my time working there that felt like a lifetime ago. "5 minutes, my mom whispered as I got out of the car. "Then I'm coming in." Her engine remained running, headlights illuminating the path to the entrance like a spotlight. I nodded and walked inside, my heart pounding against my ribs like it was trying to escape. The familiar jingle of the door opening announced my arrival, a few late-night customers glancing up briefly before returning to their meals. As I approached Camilla's booth, she attempted a smile that didn't reach her eyes, the expression more like a grimace. "Thanks for coming," she said quietly, her voice lacking its usual animation. Her fingers nervously shredded a paper napkin, the table already littered with tiny pieces. I didn't sit down, keeping my distance. "What do you want, Camilla?" The overhead fluorescent lights cast unflattering shadows on her face, highlighting the dark circles under her eyes. She glanced around nervously, fidgeting with a napkin she'd shredded into tiny pieces. "Can you sit, please? I just want to talk." Her voice had lost the confident edge I remembered, replaced by something smaller and more uncertain. Against my better judgment, I slid into the booth across from her, keeping my hands visible on the table in case she was recording. "Talk." The vinyl seat squeaked beneath me, the table slightly sticky despite appearing clean. Camilla's eyes welled with fresh tears, her mascara already smudged from previous crying. "My parents are threatening to kick me out," she said, her voice breaking. "Everyone hates me. I've lost all my friends, my TikTok account got banned, and colleges are rescinding my acceptance letters." Each word seemed to cost her, her shoulders hunched forward as if trying to make herself smaller. I stared at her, unmoved by the tears that once would have made me rush to comfort her. "And?" The ice in my voice surprised even me, a coldness I didn't know I possessed. "And I'm sorry," she whispered, the words seeming to cost her. "I never thought it would go this far. I was just mad about the iPad, and then it kind of spiraled." A tear tracked down her cheek, leaving a dark mascara trail in its wake. "You accused me of sexual assault because I wouldn't buy you an iPad?" I said incredulously, keeping my voice low despite my disbelief. "Do you have any idea what you've done to me? I lost my job. I got suspended from school. People vandalized my house. My mom had to use her retirement savings for a lawyer. Each consequence landed like a separate indictment, the list of damages longer than I had intended to share." Camilla wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, smearing her makeup further. "I know, and I'm so sorry. I'll tell everyone the truth. I'll make another video. Like the one where you laughed about how easily people believe women?" I interrupted, the memory of that video still burning. The overhead lights buzzed faintly, the sound filling the momentary silence between us. She flinched as if I'd slapped her. "I was stupid. I was trying to impress my friends. I didn't mean any of that." Her voice had taken on a pleading quality, desperation evident in every syllable. "You meant all of it," I said coldly, seeing through her performance. "You're only sorry because it backfired." The truth of this statement hung in the air between us, undeniable even to her. "Please," she begged, reaching for my hand across the table, her fingers trembling. "I need your help. If you tell people you forgive me, maybe they'll stop hating me. My dad says we might have to move. I'll lose everything." Her nail polish was chipped, I noticed absently, another sign of her unraveling. I looked at her for a long moment, taking in the desperation on her face. This girl who had once seemed like a dream, who had made me feel special when no one else would give me the time of day, was now begging for my help. And despite everything, a small part of me still remembered how it felt when she first smiled at me, that moment of connection I'd treasured. The memory flickered briefly before being extinguished by the reality before me. But then I remembered the death threats, the word predator spray painted on our house, my mother crying as she wrote a check check for the lawyer, her hands shaking slightly. The weight of these memories pressed down on me, erasing any lingering sympathy. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small envelope I had prepared just in case this moment came, something I'd carried with me since receiving her text. I slid it across the table to her, the paper making a soft sound against the laminate surface. "You should open this after you leave," I said, standing up, signaling the end of our conversation. The envelope looked stark against the red tabletop, my name and address printed neatly in the corner. Camilla grabbed my wrist, her grip surprisingly strong. "Wait, please, can't we talk more? I really am sorry." Her desperation was palpable, her eyes wide and pleading. I gently removed her hand, her touch no longer sending electricity through me. "Goodbye, Camilla." The finality in my voice was unmistakable, even to her. As I walked out, I saw her clutching the envelope, looking confused and desperate. My mom was watching from the car, and I gave her a small nod to let her know I was okay. The cool night air felt cleansing after the stifling atmosphere inside, each breath helping to center me. Through the window, I watched as Camilla opened the envelope in the booth, her hands trembling slightly. Inside was a printed screenshot of every message she had sent mocking me, with one line written in Sharpie across the bottom. "Your mask fell off. Don't bother putting it back on." I saw her face crumple as she read it, the reality of her actions finally hitting home. She looked up, and our eyes met through the glass, a moment of perfect understanding passing between us. The restaurant's harsh lighting illuminated her devastated expression, making it impossible to miss the impact of my message. For a moment, I thought she might come after me, but instead, she just sat there, the papers trembling in her hands. My mom started the car, the engine humming to life. "Are you okay?" she asked, concern evident in her voice. The dashboard lights cast a soft glow on her worried face. I nodded, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over me. "Yeah, I think I am." And for the first time in weeks, I actually meant it. The next day, I received an email from Kevin at McDonald's, asking if I wanted my job back. The investigation had concluded there was no evidence to support the allegations against me, the corporate language masking what was essentially an apology. I replied that I'd think about it, no longer desperate for the minimum wage position. The familiar ping of the email notification felt different somehow, less threatening, more like a normal part of life resuming. When I returned to school on Monday, things were different. People who had avoided me now smiled or waved in the hallways. A few even apologized for believing the rumors, their shame evident in their inability to meet my eyes. The word predator had been painted over on our house, replaced with sorry in different handwriting, an anonymous acknowledgement of wrongdoing. The fresh paint stood out against our weathered siding, a visual representation of the tide turning. But the experience had changed me fundamentally. I was more cautious now, less trusting of easy smiles and sudden interest. I kept to myself and focused on my studies and workouts, finding solace in routine and self-improvement. The gym trainer, Marco, had personally apologized and offered me free sessions, which I accepted without comment, channeling my anger into building strength. The familiar burn in my muscles became therapeutic, each rep pushing out negative emotions, replacing them with endorphins and a sense of accomplishment. During lunch that day, I sat with Tyler and a few other friends who had eventually stood by me, our conversation tentatively normal. We were discussing weekend plans when my phone buzzed with a notification that made my heart skip. "Camilla has mentioned you in a post." The vibration against the table drew everyone's attention, conversations pausing mid-sentence. My friends noticed my expression freezing. "What is it?" Tyler asked, leaning over to see my screen. His shoulder pressed against mine as he tried to get a better view, the cafeteria noise fading into the background. I opened the app hesitantly, bracing myself for another attack. Camilla had posted a video, a real, unedited confession. In it, she admitted to lying about the assault, explained that she had been jealous and vindictive, and apologized not just to me, but to actual survivors whose experiences she had trivialized with her false claims. Her face was bare of makeup, her usual perfect appearance replaced by something more authentic and vulnerable. "She actually did it," I murmured, showing the video to my friends, surprise evident in my voice. The tiny speaker on my phone struggled to project her words over the cafeteria noise, everyone at our table leaning in to hear. "Too little, too late," Tyler said dismissively, but I wasn't so sure. The video was gaining traction, with comments ranging from "brave of you to admit this" to "you should be in jail for false accusations." Camilla had disabled further comments after the first hour, likely overwhelmed by the backlash. The view count ticked up visibly, even as we watched, the digital spread of her confession happening in real time. That evening, I received a text from Andrew. "I saw Camilla's video. I knew you weren't capable of what she claimed. I'm sorry I didn't stand by you." The message appeared while I was doing homework, the notification temporarily distracting me from calculus problems. I stared at the message for a long time, conflicting emotions battling within me. Andrew had been my best friend for years before Camilla came between us. His betrayal had hurt more than almost anything else, cutting deeper than any insult from strangers. But people make mistakes. I had made plenty myself, some I wasn't proud of. The desk lamp cast a warm circle of light on my textbooks, the house quiet around me as I contemplated my response. After several minutes of contemplation, I typed a response. "I need time." It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't a door slammed shut either, more like a door left slightly ajar, possibility lingering. My thumb hovered over the send button for several seconds before I finally pressed it, the message whooshing away into the digital ether. As I was getting ready for bed, my mom knocked on my door, tablet in hand. "There's something you should see," she said, handing me the device. Her expression was unreadable, neither worried nor relieved, just watchful. It was a news article from a local website. "Teen admits to false assault allegation. highlighting dangers of social media justice. The article mentioned no names but detailed a situation identical to mine. It quoted experts on the psychological impact of false accusations and the responsibility of social media platforms in preventing digital witch hunts. The screen's blue light illuminated my face as I scrolled through the article, absorbing its implications. "It's going mainstream," my mom said, a hint of vindication in her voice. "This could help other people who've been falsely accused." She sat on the edge of my bed, the mattress dipping slightly under her weight. I nodded, feeling a complex mix of emotions swirling within me. Relief that the truth was out, lingering anger at what I'd been through, and a strange, unexpected sense of purpose taking root. The article had mentioned resources for those falsely accused, organizations I hadn't known existed during my darkest moments. The next day at school, Ruth from the Daily Hawk approached me in the hallway between classes, her notebook already in hand. The corridor was crowded with students rushing to their next period, the noise level rising with each passing minute. "We're doing a feature on social media and false accusations," she said, pushing her glasses up her nose. "Would you be willing to be interviewed?" Anonymously, of course. Her pen was poised over her notebook, ready to record my answer. I hesitated, weighing my options. Part of me wanted to put this all behind me and move on, to reclaim the privacy that had been stripped away. But another part recognized that my experience could help others navigate similar situations. The warning bell rang, signaling 2 minutes until the next class, students hurrying around us like a river flowing around two stationary rocks. "I'll think about it," I told her, not ready to commit either way. The weight of the decision felt significant, requiring more consideration than I could give between classes. That afternoon, I went back to McDonald's for my first shift since being suspended, the familiar uniform feeling strange after everything that had happened. The polyester fabric felt different against my skin, a reminder of how much I had changed since I last wore it. Kevin welcomed me back warmly, and most of my co-workers were supportive, though a few still gave me side-eye, their doubts lingering despite the evidence. The smell of fry oil and cleaning solution brought back memories of when Camilla first walked in, a lifetime ago. As I flipped burgers and wiped down tables, for the first time in months, I breathed without the constant weight of anxiety pressing down on me. The burden that had been crushing me was lifting. Not completely gone, I doubted it ever would be, but lighter, manageable. Each customer interaction felt like practice in normalcy, a step toward reclaiming my life. During my break, I texted Ruth, "I'll do the interview," my decision made with clarity of purpose. The small break room was empty except for me, allowing a moment of quiet reflection as I sent the message that would share my story with others. 3 days later, the Daily Hawk published my story, changing names and some details, but keeping the essential truth intact. The response was overwhelming. Students I barely knew approached me to share similar experiences, not necessarily false accusations, but times when social media had been weaponized against them, turning private disputes into public spectacles. Each conversation reinforced my decision to speak out, the shared experiences creating unexpected connections. Camilla transferred schools the following week, her parents finally accepting that the situation had become untenable. I heard through the grapevine that her family was moving to another state, a fresh start away from the scandal. Part of me felt sorry for her, seeing how completely her life had unraveled, but a larger part was simply relieved that this chapter was closing. The halls felt lighter without the possibility of running into her, one less source of tension in my daily life. Andrew kept texting occasionally, his messages casual and undemanding. Simple things like, "Hope you're doing okay," or "Saw you crushed it at the gym today." I responded minimally at first, one-word answers and emojis, but gradually our conversations lengthened, the familiar rhythm of our friendship slowly re-emerging from the ashes. We weren't back to where we had been, but we were talking, and that was something. Each exchange felt like rebuilding a bridge one plank at a time, testing each step before committing fully. One evening, as I was leaving the gym, muscles pleasantly sore from a good workout, I spotted a familiar figure waiting by my car. It was Camilla, looking nervous and out of place in the fading light. The parking lot was nearly empty, the gym's exterior lights creating pools of brightness in the gathering dusk. "Before you say anything," she said quickly as I approached, her hands raised defensively, "I just came to give you this." She handed me an envelope, thicker than the one I had given her at McDonald's. Her hair was different, shorter, less styled, and she wore none of the designer clothes that had once been her signature. I opened it cautiously, half expecting more drama. Inside was a check for $2,000, the amount making my eyebrows raise involuntarily. The paper felt heavy in my hands, the amount written in neat handwriting that I recognized as hers. "It's for the iPad I wanted," she explained, her voice small, "and for some of the lawyer fees. It's not enough, I know, but it's all I have from my savings and selling some of my stuff." She shifted her weight from one foot to the other, clearly uncomfortable but determined to see this through. I stared at the check, then at her, searching for signs of manipulation, but finding only genuine remorse. "Why? Because I was wrong," she said simply, meeting my eyes directly for the first time. "And I'm trying to make it right before we move. My dad doesn't know I'm here. He'd unalived me if he knew I was admitting liability or whatever." The admission seemed to cost her, each word carefully chosen. After a moment's hesitation, I took the check, the paper feeling unexpectedly heavy, not because I needed or wanted her money, but because I recognized this was part of her healing process too, a tangible acknowledgement of the harm she'd caused. "Thank you," I said, my voice neutral. She nodded, then turned to go, her shoulders slumped with the weight of consequences. After a few steps, she looked back, her expression wistful. "For what it's worth, I really did like you at first, before everything got so messed up." The parking lot light cast long shadows across her face, highlighting the sincerity in her expression. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded, acknowledging her words without accepting or rejecting them. Some truths didn't require a response, just recognition. She gave a small, sad smile and walked away, her figure growing smaller as she headed toward the parking lot exit. I watched her go, feeling neither hatred nor affection, just a calm acknowledgement that this chapter was finally closing. The evening air felt clean and cool, washing away the last traces of our interaction. When I got home, I told my mom about the encounter and showed her the check, its amount still surprising me. The kitchen was warm and inviting, the familiar smell of her cooking a comforting constant in a life that had been anything but stable recently. "What are you going to do with it?" she asked, curiosity in her eyes. She paused in chopping vegetables for dinner, giving me her full attention. I thought for a moment, considering options. "I'm going to donate it to a group that helps people who've been falsely accused, and maybe keep a little to start a college fund." The decision felt right, transforming something negative into something constructive. She smiled, pride evident in her expression. "That sounds perfect." Her approval warmed me more than I expected, a reminder of how steadfastly she had supported me through everything. That night, I lay in bed thinking about everything that had happened. How a girl I once thought was my dream had turned into my nightmare. How friends had betrayed me and strangers had stood by me. How I'd learned who I was when everything was taken away, discovering strength I never knew I possessed. The moonlight filtered through my blinds, casting striped shadows across my ceiling as I reflected. I opened Instagram and saw I had a new follower request, Andrew. After a moment's hesitation, I accepted it, the simple action feeling like the closing of a circle. Then I went to my profile and updated my bio for the first time in months. Finance student, gym enthusiast, survivor of false accusations. There's always another side to the story. Each word felt deliberate and true, a reclaiming of my narrative. As I set my phone down, I realized something important. Camilla had never been my dream girl. She had been a projection of what I thought I wanted, validation from someone who had once seemed out of my league. The real dream was becoming someone I could respect when I looked in the mirror. And despite everything, or perhaps because of it, I was closer to that dream than ever before.